The crystalline spires of the Monastery of Eternal Light pierced the violet sky, their ancient surfaces refracting the light of 3 moons into shimmering patterns across the meditation gardens. Sister Lyra adjusted her iridescent robes as she made her final rounds, her luminescent skin casting a soft glow in the deepening twilight. For 10,000 years, the Order had maintained their vigil here on the edges of known space, preserving knowledge and observing the cosmos. The peace of her evening ritual shattered as a burning streak cut across the sky. Lyra's inner eyelids flickered rapidly as she tracked the object's descent. It was no meteor. The trajectory was too controlled, too deliberate. Her heart quickened as she realized it would land near the monastery's grounds. First Observer Lyra, a melodic voice called out. Mother Superior Vena emerged from the main temple, her aged skin showing deeper hues of blue than the younger sisters. You saw it as well. Yes, revered Mother. The pattern suggests a small vessel, likely damaged but under partial control. Prepare the emergency protocols. We haven't had an outsider breach our sanctuary in over 3 centuries. Vena's expression remained serene, but Lyra detected concern in the subtle fluctuations of her bioluminescent patterns. The vessel crashed in the crystal forest below the monastery, snapping ancient growths and sending rainbow refractions dancing across the mountainside. Lyra led a small group of sisters down the winding path, their specialized knowledge of emergency response rarely used but perfectly maintained like all their ancient learnings. They found the ship half buried in crystalline soil, its hull scorched but largely intact. As they approached, a hatch burst open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. A figure emerged, bipedal, clothed in what appeared to be a diplomatic uniform, and unmistakably human. Well, the human said, brushing debris from their shoulder with a gloved hand, this isn't exactly how I planned to make first contact. They looked up at the assembled sisters and smiled disarmingly. I'm Ambassador Sarah Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. I apologize for dropping in unannounced, but my ship's navigation systems were damaged avoiding a pirate ambush. Lyra had studied humans in the monastery's vast archives, but seeing one in person was entirely different. The ambassador's skin was a warm brown tone, so unlike their own blue hues, and her eyes didn't glow at all. Yet there was an intensity to them that Lyra found fascinating. I am Mother Superior Vena of the Order of Eternal Light. Vena stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of millennia of tradition. While we honor the sanctity of life and will offer aid, you must understand that our monastery is a place of seclusion. No outsider has set foot within our walls since the Great Convergence. I understand completely, Sarah replied, then winced slightly. Though I may need more than just a temporary shelter, my ship's quantum drive is severely damaged. Without proper repairs, I won't be able to leave or contact my people. Lyra felt a ripple of unease pass through the gathered sisters. The Order's vows of isolation had protected their knowledge and way of life through countless conflicts and changes in the galaxy around them. Now those vows were being challenged by circumstance and compassion. We will discuss this matter in council, Vena declared. Sister Lyra, as first observer, you will be responsible for our guests' safety and ensuring they respect our ways. Sarah turned to Lyra with another warm smile that caused an unexpected flutter in her secondary heartbeat. I look forward to learning from you, Sister Lyra. I promise to be a model guest. As they ascended the crystal steps to the monastery, Lyra found herself studying the humans' movements, so different from their own fluid grace, yet carrying their own kind of elegance. The ambassador moved with confident precision, taking in every detail of their surroundings with obvious wonder, but maintaining a diplomatic restraint. Your monastery, Sarah said softly, it's extraordinary. I've visited thousands of worlds, but I've never seen architecture quite like this. The way it channels and amplifies natural light. The crystals were grown, not built, Lyra explained, surprised by her own eagerness to share knowledge with an outsider. Each spire took a century to reach its current height, shaped by the combined meditation of generations of sisters. They reached the entrance to the guest quarters, unused for centuries, but maintained with the same diligence as every other part of the monastery. These will be your rooms, Lyra gestured to the door. I must warn you that many areas of the monastery are forbidden to non-initiates. There are secrets here that must remain protected. Every culture has its mysteries, Sarah replied thoughtfully. Sometimes the greatest respect we can show is knowing when not to ask questions. She paused at the doorway, meeting Lyra's glow with those fascinating dark eyes. Though I hope there are some things you'll be willing to share. Cultural exchange can enrich both parties, don't you think? Lyra felt her skin's luminescence brighten involuntarily. Perhaps. Rest now, Ambassador. Tomorrow will bring many discussions about your situation. As Lyra made her way to the evening meditation, she found her thoughts returning to the human's words about cultural exchange. The Order had survived through isolation, but had they truly thrived? What knowledge might they gain from cautious interaction with the outside galaxy? In the meditation chamber, she noticed other sisters struggling to maintain focus, their thoughts clearly disturbed by the day's events. Even Mother Superior Vena's usually perfect composure showed signs of uncertainty. The arrival of Ambassador Chen had already begun to stir changes in their carefully ordered world. What none of them yet realized was that this unexpected visitor would challenge not just their vows of isolation, but their entire understanding of their place in the galaxy. The real question was whether that ancient order would bend or break in the face of change. Dawn brought new challenges to the ancient halls of the monastery. Sister Lyra found Ambassador Chen in the meditation gardens, not touching anything but studying the bioluminescent flora with obvious fascination. The human's presence had already begun to disrupt the carefully ordered routines of the order, with younger sisters finding excuses to pass by and observe their unusual guest. The flowers, Sarah said without turning, they respond to neural patterns, don't they? The light pulses match brain wave frequencies. Lyra's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. You're remarkably observant, Ambassador. Few outsiders would notice such subtleties. Please call me Sarah. The human turned, morning light hatching the subtle silver streaks in her dark hair. And observation is a crucial diplomatic skill. Though I admit, your monastery makes it easy to be fascinated. Before Lyra could respond, a musical tone echoed through the gardens, the call to morning council. The sisters will decide your fate today, Lyra explained. I must attend. Of course, I'll continue admiring your gardens and trying not to cause any diplomatic incidents. The council chamber hummed with tension, its crystal walls reflecting the agitated bioluminescence of the gathered sisters. Mother Superior Vena sat in the seat of wisdom, her aged features set in contemplation. Sisters of the Eternal Light, Vena began, we face an unprecedented situation. The human ambassador's presence challenges our most sacred vow of isolation. Yet the galaxy around us changes, and perhaps we must consider if absolute isolation serves our purpose. Sister Mira, keeper of ancient records, rose to speak. The archives tell of the devastation that outside contact once brought. Wars, plagues, the corruption of sacred knowledge. We sealed ourselves away for good reason. With respect, Lyra found herself speaking, surprising even herself. The archives also speak of what we gained from contact. Many of our greatest discoveries came from the exchange of ideas. Whispers rippled through the chamber. Lyra continued, her skin pulsing with conviction. I've observed the ambassador. She shows genuine respect for our ways and possesses knowledge that could complement our own. And what of the pirates who damaged her ship? Sister Kara, the defense system's keeper, interjected. If we assist her, do we risk drawing their attention? The debate continued for hours, following the ancient patterns of their order. Finally, Mother Vena raised her hand for silence. We will allow the ambassador to remain while her ship is repaired. Sister Lyra will continue as her guide, but also her guardian. If any hint of threat to our order emerges, we will implement the isolation protocols immediately. As Lyra departed the council to inform Sarah of their decision, She found the ambassador deep in conversation with Sister Nova, one of their youngest initiates. They were discussing the principles of quantum harmonics, with Nova's usual shy demeanor replaced by animated excitement. "Ah, Sister Lyra," Sarah smiled. Sister Nova was just explaining how you use crystalline matrices to store quantum information. Fascinating stuff. It could revolutionize our own data storage systems. Nova's skin flushed a deeper blue. The ambassador was telling me about human music, how they use vibrations to create patterns of sound. I never imagined there could be so many ways to arrange simple waves. "The council has reached its decision," Lyra announced. "You may stay while repairs are made, but there will be conditions." Sarah's expression turned serious. "Of course. I'm grateful for any hospitality you can offer. Perhaps I can share some diplomatic contacts who could help strengthen your isolation once I leave. Early warning systems, sensor nets, that sort of thing." Over the following days, a curious pattern emerged. Despite the strict limitations placed on her movements, Sarah's presence began to catalyze subtle changes throughout the monastery. Sisters who had spent centuries focused solely on their specialized studies began asking questions about other disciplines, inspired by the ambassador's wide-ranging knowledge. Lyra found herself spending more time with Sarah than strictly necessary for her duties as guardian. The humans' perspective on the universe was so different from their own, yet there was a harmony to their discussions that felt almost like the sacred meditations. "Your order's understanding of light and quantum mechanics is incredible," Sarah remarked one evening as they watched the triple moon rise. "Combined with human innovations in propulsion technology, we could revolutionize space travel." "You speak as though such collaboration were possible," Lyra responded, though she couldn't keep the note of curiosity from her voice. "Isn't everything possible until we decide it isn't?" Sarah turned to face her, expression earnest. "Your isolation protected you through dark times, but the galaxy is changing. There are threats that can only be faced together and opportunities that could be missed forever." Before Lyra could respond, Sister Kara burst into the garden, her skin pulsing with alarm patterns. "First observer, Mother Superior requires your presence immediately. Our long-range sensors have detected something disturbing." In the observatory dome, Mother Venna stood before a holographic display of local space. "Watch," she commanded, gesturing at a particular sector. Lyra observed as a ship appeared from quantum space, its design unlike anything in their records. As they watched, it methodically destroyed an automated research station, harvesting its resources with frightening efficiency. "They've hit 3 stations in neighboring systems," Kara reported. "The pattern suggests they're searching for something." Sarah's face had gone pale. "Those are quantum reavers. They're a new threat. Religious extremists who believe advanced technology is an abomination. They destroy any civilization they consider too developed." "And if they find us?" Lyra asked, already knowing the answer. "Your monastery represents everything they hate, the preservation and advancement of knowledge. They won't stop until every crystal spire is reduced to dust." Mother Venna's voice carried the weight of centuries. "Then perhaps isolation is no longer an option. The question is, are we ready for what comes next?" The ancient chambers seemed to hold their breath, waiting for an answer that would reshape not just their order, but the fate of all their carefully preserved knowledge. The time of simple isolation had ended. The only question was what would rise to take its place. The monastery's great library had stood unchanged for centuries, its crystalline shelves holding the accumulated wisdom of countless generations. Now, for the first time in living memory, its sacred quiet was broken by urgent activity as sisters worked alongside their human guest to find answers to the approaching threat. "The quantum reavers aren't just pirates or raiders," Sarah explained, her fingers dancing across a holographic display. "They're zealots who believe advanced technology corrupts the soul. Their attacks have been escalating across 3 sectors." Lyra studied the attack patterns, her bioluminescence dimmed with concern. "Their trajectory suggests they'll reach this region within 2 standard weeks. Even if they don't know about us specifically, their sensors will detect the monastery's quantum signatures. Sisters, Mother Vena's voice carried across the library as she entered with Sister Kara. The Defense Council has concluded its meditations. We face a choice that will echo through generations. The gathered sisters straightened, their skin patterns shifting to formal attention configurations. Sarah remained respectfully quiet, though Lyra noticed her leaning forward slightly. For 10,000 years, Vena continued, we have preserved knowledge through isolation. But knowledge preserved means nothing if it dies with us. The quantum reavers represent everything we have stood against, the destruction of wisdom, the suppression of understanding. She turned to Sarah. Ambassador, if we were to break our isolation, what aid could your people provide? The Earth Diplomatic Corps has been building a coalition against the reavers, Sarah replied carefully. But ships take time to position, and the reavers strike fast. However, she paused, glancing at Lyra. Your quantum technology, combined with human defensive systems, might give us an advantage they won't expect. Sister Mira stepped forward, her aged form trembling slightly. Revered Mother, the prophecies speak of a time and the light must shine beyond our walls. Perhaps this is that time. A murmur ran through the gathered sisters. The prophecies were rarely invoked, their meanings debated for centuries in quiet meditation sessions. Laura felt a shiver run through her secondary nervous system as ancient words surfaced in her memory. When darkness rises to devour wisdom, the light must seek new paths or fade forever. We will need to evacuate the surrounding settlements, Sister Kara stated pragmatically. The crystal forests house thousands of beings who know nothing of our existence. They'll be defenseless. I can help coordinate with local authorities, Sarah offered. My diplomatic credentials should ease any confusion or panic. Mother Vena nodded slowly. Sister Lyra, you will work with the ambassador to integrate our defensive capabilities with human technology. Sister Kara, begin the evacuation preparations. The rest of you, commence the ancient defense protocols. As the sisters dispersed to their tasks, Lyra led Sarah to the monastery's quantum core, a chamber no outsider had ever seen. The walls pulsed with pure quantum information, patterns of light dancing in configurations that defied normal space-time. This is incredible, Sarah breathed, her eyes wide. The theoretical applications alone, your people have achieved what our scientists only dreamed of. And now we must use it for warfare, Lyra said softly, her skin patterns expressing subtle distress. There is an irony in using the tools of enlightenment for battle. Sarah placed a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder, sending an unexpected tingle through her photosensitive skin. Sometimes protecting wisdom requires strength. The question is how to use that strength wisely. They worked through the night, combining the monastery's quantum systems with the salvageable parts from Sarah's chip. Other sisters joined them, centuries of theoretical knowledge finally finding practical application. But as the work progressed, Lyra noticed growing tension among some of the older sisters. This goes against everything we've stood for, she overheard Sister Mira arguing with Mother Vena in a side chamber. Sharing our sacred knowledge with outsiders, preparing for war. Would you prefer we let our knowledge die? Vena responded calmly. Sometimes preservation requires adaptation. The debate was cut short by Sister Nova rushing in, her young skin flashing urgent patterns. Long-range sensors detect another ship, but it's not Reaver design. They hurried to the observatory, where a holographic projection showed a sleek vessel approaching at quantum speeds. Sarah's face lit up with recognition. That's the EDS Prometheus, one of our fastest diplomatic ships. They must have picked up my emergency beacon. Her expression turned serious. But if they found us? The Reavers can't be far behind, Lyra finished grimly. Mother Vena surveyed the assembled sisters, her ancient eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. It seems the galaxy has decided we can no longer hide in our crystal towers. The question now becomes, how do we face it? As it can answer, the monastery's quantum core pulsed with unprecedented intensity, its light reaching every corner of the ancient structure. In the crystal forests below, the very ground began to hum with accumulated power, as if the planet itself was awakening to the coming conflict. Lyra felt something shift in the air, not just the physical atmosphere, but the very essence of their order. They had preserved knowledge for millennia, and now that knowledge demanded to be used. The real test would not be in their ability to fight, but in their wisdom to know how to use their power without losing themselves in the process. Sarah caught her eye across the observatory, and Lyra saw her own mix of determination and concern reflected in the human's expression. They had begun this journey as distant species bound by circumstance. Now they faced a crucial question. Could they forge something stronger than isolation in the crucible of approaching conflict? The answer would reshape not just their own futures, but perhaps the very nature of wisdom and power in their corner of the galaxy. The arrival of the Earth diplomatic vessel Prometheus transformed the monastery's serene mountaintop into a hub of unprecedented activity. Human engineers worked alongside the sisters, their different approaches to technology creating occasional sparks, both literal and metaphorical. "The quantum harmonics are too unstable," Sister Nova protested, her skin flickering with agitation as she faced off against the Prometheus's chief engineer. "You can't just hook them directly into your power grid." "With all due respect," the engineer replied, running a hand through his graying hair, "we've got less than a week before the Reavers arrive. We need to get these defenses online now." Lyra watched the exchange from her position at the central control matrix, where she and Sarah were attempting to merge the monastery's ancient systems with modern human technology. The ambassador's presence had become a bridge between the two groups, her diplomatic skills smoothing ruffled feelings and finding compromise. "What if we use the crystal lattice as a buffer?" Sarah suggested, pointing to a complex diagram hovering in the air. "It could stabilize the power flow while actually amplifying the output." Nova's patterns shifted to consideration. Like the harmonic chambers in the meditation halls, yes, that could work. Mother Venna entered the chamber, accompanied by Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Prometheus. The human captain's crisp uniform contrasted sharply with Venna's flowing robes, yet both carried themselves with similar gravity. "The evacuation of the valley settlements is complete," Rodriguez reported, "but our long-range scouts have detected increased Reaver activity. They're definitely heading this way." "How many ships?" Lyra asked, dreading the answer. "At least 5 capital ships with support vessels, more than we've ever seen them commit to a single target." The captain's dark eyes were grim. "They must have detected the unusual quantum signatures from your monastery." "Or they were drawn by my distress beacon," Sarah added quietly. Lyra noticed the flash of guilt in her expression and felt an urge to offer comfort. "The beacon led help to us first," Lyra said firmly. "Without that, we might have faced them alone." Mother Venna moved to the central display, her aged hands passing through the holographic stars. "Show me the evacuation zones again." As the map shifted, she nodded slowly. "There is another option we haven't considered, the deep chambers." A ripple of surprise passed through the sisters. Lyra's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. "Revered Mother, the deep chambers haven't been accessed in thousands of years. The power requirements alone are precisely what we need," Venna finished. "Captain Rodriguez, what do you know of this world's history?" The captain looked startled. "Only what's in our surveys. It's tectonically stable, unusually rich in quantum reactive crystals." "This monastery was not built atop the mountain," Sister Mira spoke up, her voice carrying the weight of historical knowledge. "It was built atop an ancient planetary defense system. The crystal forests are not natural formations. They're quantum antenna arrays created by those who came before." Sarah's eyes widened. "The entire valley is one giant weapon." "Not a weapon," Lyra corrected. "A shield. The legends say it once protected this entire sector of space. But activating it," she turned to Mother Venna, "the power requirements would drain our quantum core completely. We'd be sacrificing thousands of years of stored energy." and in doing so, perhaps fulfill its true purpose. Venna replied serenely. What is the point of storing power if not to use it when needed most? The next days passed in a blur of activity. Human engineers and monastery sisters worked side by side, their different technologies gradually meshing into something entirely new. The crystal forests below began to pulse with test energies, creating spectacular light shows in the violet sky. Laura found Sarah in the quantum core chamber late one night, the human studying the swirling patterns with intense concentration. You should rest, Lyra said softly. The Reavers will be here soon enough. I never imagined I'd see anything like this, Sarah replied, not turning around. Your people have held on to such wonders, kept them safe through ages of darkness. The Reavers would destroy it all in the name of their twisted philosophy. Perhaps that's why the galaxy brought us together now. Lyra moved closer, her bioluminescence harmonizing unconsciously with the quantum flows. Your people's drive to explore, our dedication to preservation, both have their place. Sarah finally turned to face her, and Lyra was struck by the intensity in her dark eyes. When this is over, assuming we survive, what happens then? Will the monastery return to isolation? Before Lyra could respond, alarms blared throughout the complex. Sister Kara's voice echoed through the chambers. Multiple quantum space ruptures detected, Reaver fleet emerging. They rushed to the observatory, joining Mother Venna, Captain Rodriguez, and others. The holographic display showed a nightmarish sight, dark ships emerging from quantum space like predatory fish rising from depths. They're not even hailing, Rodriguez reported tensely, moving straight into attack formation. Then we give them no chance to strike first, Venna declared. Begin the deep chamber activation sequence. Sister Lyra, you and the ambassador will coordinate from the primary control matrix. Captain, have your ship ready to provide support. As they hurried to their positions, Lyra felt the entire mountain begin to vibrate. Ancient systems, dormant for millennia, surged to life. The crystal forests blazed with building power, and in the quantum core, the accumulated knowledge of ages began to flow into new configurations. They had preserved wisdom for thousands of years. Now it was time to prove they could use it wisely. The true test was about to begin, and its outcome would determine not just their fate, but perhaps the future of how knowledge itself was preserved and shared throughout the galaxy. Through it all, Lyra was acutely aware of Sarah's presence beside her at the controls, their species' different approaches to technology and wisdom now united in common cause. Whatever came next would change everything, but perhaps that change was long overdue. The Reaver ships descended like dark stars, their weapons already charging as they entered the atmosphere. Within the monastery's control matrix, Lyra and Sarah worked in perfect synchronization, their movements flowing together as if they'd trained for years rather than days. Deep chamber power at 70%, Lyra reported, her skin pulsing with streams of data. Crystal forest resonance building. Prometheus moving to support position, Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm. We'll try to draw their fire until the main systems are online. Mother Venna stood at the center of the observatory, her aged form seeming to glow with internal light. Remember, sisters, we do not seek to destroy. Our goal is to protect, to preserve. Let that guide your actions. The first Reaver shots streaked through the violet sky, their dark energy weapons designed to corrupt and destroy advanced technology. They struck an invisible barrier several kilometers out, dissipating in spectacular displays of quantum interference. Initial shields holding, Sister Kara announced, but they're already adapting their attack patterns. Sarah's fingers danced across the holographic controls. They're trying to find the resonance frequency of your quantum fields, if they succeed. They won't, Lyra interrupted, her patterns shifting to show grim determination. Sister Nova, begin the harmonic shift sequence. Below in the crystal forests, the ancient arrays began to pulse in complex patterns, each crystal singing with quantum energies in a symphony of light and power. The Reaver ship's first attack wave faltered, their weapons unable to lock onto the constantly shifting frequencies. "Clever," Sarah murmured admiringly. "You're using the same principles as your meditation chambers, but on a planetary scale." A massive explosion rocked the monastery as one of the Reaver ships, frustrated by the defenses, resorted to crude physical weapons. "Direct hit on the outer walls," Sister Kara reported. "Structural integrity at 80%. They seek to provoke us into revealing our true defenses," Mother Venna observed calmly. "They do not understand that patience itself can be a weapon." The battle continued to escalate, the sky above the monastery becoming a canvas of light and shadow as ancient wisdom clashed with destructive zealotry. The Prometheus darted between larger Reaver vessels, its human crew displaying remarkable skill in supporting the monastery's defense strategy. "Deep chamber power at maximum," Lyra announced finally. "Ready to initiate the primary protocol." Mother Venna nodded solemnly. "Do it." Lyra and Sarah pressed their hands to the crystal control surface simultaneously, their touch completing circuits that had lain dormant for millennia. The entire mountain seemed to hold its breath for one eternal moment. Then everything changed. The crystal forests erupted with light, each formation becoming part of a vast network that stretched across the valley. The quantum core of the monastery pulsed like a living heart, pouring 10,000 years of stored energy into systems designed by long-vanished architects. A dome of pure quantum energy expanded outward from the monastery, not just deflecting the Reaver weapons, but actively transforming their destructive power into constructive energy. The dark ships found themselves trapped in a web of light that turned their own forces against them. "By the void," Captain Rodriguez breathed over the comm. "I've never seen anything like this." "The Ancient Ones believed that destruction could be transformed," Sister Mira explained, her voice thick with emotion. "That wisdom could turn darkness into light. But the victory was not without cost." Throughout the monastery, ancient crystals began to crack under the strain, their stored knowledge bleeding away as they gave their power to the defense of all they had preserved. "The quantum core is destabilizing," Sister Nova reported urgently. "We're losing centuries of stored data." Sarah's eyes met Lyra's across the control matrix. "Your archives, all that knowledge." "Knowledge is meant to be used," Lyra replied firmly, though her heart ached at the loss. "What matters is how we use it." Above them, the Reaver ships began to retreat, their weapons useless against defenses that turned destruction into creation. But as they fled, one final vessel turned to make a suicide run directly at the monastery's heart. "They mean to overload the quantum field," Sarah realized aloud. "The resulting explosion would destroy everything we've preserved," Mother Venna finished. "Unless—" She stepped forward, placing her aged hands on the control matrix. Ancient markings began to glow beneath her touch. "There is one final protocol, a way to share rather than destroy." "Revered Mother, no," Sister Mira protested. "The strain would fulfill my purpose," Venna said serenely, "as all things must." Before anyone could stop her, the Mother Superior began to channel the monastery's remaining quantum energy through herself, using her own bioelectric field as a conduit. The approaching Reaver ship found itself caught in a beam of pure enlightenment, its destructive energy not just transformed but transcended. The ship's crew, for perhaps the first time in their lives, experienced the full wonder of the knowledge they had sought to destroy. Their weapons fell silent as they were bathed in understanding that crossed all boundaries of species and belief. But the effort proved too much for even Venna's legendary strength. As the last Reaver ship retreated, she collapsed into Lyra's arms, her bioluminescence flickering weakly. "The light," she whispered, "it must always find new paths." Around them, the monastery systems slowly powered down, countless crystals now dark and empty of their stored wisdom. Yet, as Sister Nova began scanning the damage, she made a surprising discovery. "The knowledge, it's not gone," she reported wonderingly. "It's changed form. Somehow, During the battle, it merged with the human ship's databases, creating hybrid data structures we've never seen before. Sarah stepped forward, hope in her eyes. Not destroyed then, transformed, like everything else today. As the sisters gathered around their fallen leader, Laura realized that they had preserved far more than just ancient wisdom. They had proven that knowledge itself could evolve, could find new forms and new ways to survive. The true test had not been whether they could defeat the Reavers, but whether they could adapt without losing their essential nature. Looking at the hybrid displays of human and monastery technology working in harmony, Laura suspected they had passed that test in ways none of them had expected. Dawn broke over the monastery 3 days after the battle, the triple suns casting prismatic light through crystals that now held new forms of wisdom. Teams of sisters and human engineers worked side by side, integrating salvaged knowledge into hybrid storage systems that combined the best of both civilizations' technologies. In the meditation garden, Laura stood before the freshly created memorial to Mother Superior Vena. The crystal sculpture captured her essence in frozen light, her serene expression now preserved for future generations. She would have appreciated the symbolism, Sarah said softly, joining her. The light of wisdom, preserved but transformed. Like everything else, Lyra agreed, her skin patterns shifting in gentle remembrance. The sisters found fragments of her final meditation in the quantum buffer. She foresaw much of this, not the specific events, but the necessity of change. Around them, the monastery hummed with unprecedented activity. The Prometheus had been joined by other Earth vessels, bringing scientists and diplomats eager to learn from the Order. More surprisingly, many of the sisters had embraced the opportunity to share their knowledge. Sister Nova's latest breakthrough is remarkable, Sarah commented as they walked through the corridors. Combining your quantum storage techniques with our neural interface technology, it could revolutionize how all species learn and preserve knowledge. They entered the great library, now transformed into a fusion of ancient wisdom and modern innovation. Holographic displays danced between crystalline shelves, while human and alien researchers worked together to translate centuries of accumulated knowledge into forms both cultures could understand. Sister Mira, once the strongest voice for isolation, sat at a central desk surrounded by young human students. The Ancient Ones believed that wisdom was like light, she was explaining, her initial reluctance replaced by educational zeal. It can be reflected, refracted, even split into new forms, but it cannot be destroyed, only transformed. And what about the Reavers? A student asked. Could they return? Some fled to deep space, Sister Kara answered, joining the discussion. But others, those caught in Mother Vena's final protocol, have requested asylum. They wish to learn, to understand what they once sought to destroy. From destruction to creation, Lyra mused. Perhaps that's the greatest wisdom we could preserve. The monastery itself was changing, its ancient architecture adapting to serve new purposes. The defensive systems remained, but now they were complemented by communication arrays and research facilities. The crystal forests below had begun to grow in new patterns, influenced by the merger of human and monastery technologies. The Council of Sisters has reached a decision, Sister Kara announced later that day, addressing the assembled humans and sisters in the Great Hall. With the ascension of Sister Lyra to the position of Mother Superior, we will establish the Interstellar Institute of Quantum Wisdom. A murmur of excitement passed through the crowd. Lyra stepped forward, her new robes of office shimmering with subtle patterns of light. For 10,000 years, we preserved knowledge through isolation, she began, her voice carrying the weight of her new responsibility. Now we must learn to preserve it through connection. The Order of Eternal Light will continue, but with a new purpose, to ensure that wisdom flows freely between all who seek to learn. Sarah beamed from her place among the Earth diplomats, and Lyra felt a warm glow of appreciation for how far they'd come from their first meeting. But we will not forget our core principles, Lyra continued. Knowledge must be used wisely, with respect for its power to both create and destroy. The Reavers taught us the danger of fear and rejection of progress. We choose a different path, one of understanding and growth. The changes were already visible. Human quantum physicists worked alongside sisters in the laboratories, while monastery meditation techniques were being adapted for space fleet crew training. The crystal forests had begun producing new formations shaped by the combined influence of both cultures' technologies. Mother Superior, Sarah, approached after the ceremony, her diplomatic formality softened by genuine warmth. Eleth has appointed me as permanent ambassador to the Institute. It seems our crash landing was just the beginning. The beginning of many things, Lyra agreed, allowing her bioluminescence to harmonize with the ambient light in a display of contentment. Mother Venna once told me that true wisdom knows when to hold on and when to let go. We held our knowledge safe through ages of darkness. Now it's time to let it shine. High above, the first students from other worlds were arriving, their ships descending through the violet sky like new stars coming to join an ancient constellation. The monastery's spires reached up to meet them, no longer just preserving wisdom, but actively sharing it with all who sought to learn. In the quantum core, now restored and enhanced with human innovations, new patterns of light danced in endless combinations. They told a story of two cultures that have found strength in their differences and wisdom in their willingness to change. The light of knowledge, once carefully contained, now flowed freely between the stars. And in the heart of it all, a human ambassador and an alien mother superior stood together, watching their shared vision of the future unfold. They had preserved more than just ancient wisdom. They had discovered that the greatest knowledge comes not from isolation, but from the courage to reach across the darkness between stars and forge connections that transcend all boundaries. The story of the monastery was no longer one of isolation, but of transformation. And like the light they had studied for so long, their wisdom would continue to spread, illuminating new paths through the eternal darkness of space.